pala sa Surigao, dumali ito eh.
Half of you for the turret, the other half for a run to the...
1,900-pound projectile, which is a high-capacity projectile. It's a point detonating type round. The armor on the turret, it's not, everybody asks if it's noisy in here when the gun goes off. Actually, it's not noisy at all because the armor is so thick on this turret, all the sound goes outside of the barrel. That was made, if you were up on the bridge and saw the, okay, like I was saying, it was... Why don't you let us get out there and you guys step up here? Okay, like the baseplate was made to withstand a projectile from a Japanese battleship. The overhead is 9 inches thick, the side bulkheads are 14, and the back plate is 7 inches thick. So it's really pretty quiet in here when the gun goes off. The chain of command to fire the gun goes from your gun officer will give the order to fire the gun. It'll come down to the turret captain. Your turret captain, he works with these switches right here. This sets the gun in the firing mode. With these switches, he more or less tells which gun is going to be fired by hitting the switches. We can have only the right gun fire, or the center, or all three of them fire at the same time. They can be fired at different elevations, or can be fired at the same elevation. It doesn't matter. Your gun captain will... This is the first group. Is there any questions about anything, really?
That sounds like the Australian Navy wish.
We have had visitors on board, obviously, every place we go, and some of those have turned out to be really super. In Incheon, we had, up in Korea, the various government officials and people from the city come aboard, and we certainly had a wonderful time down in here in the Philippines in Subic Bay. 2 consecutive days, we had all the mayors from all the villages in Zambales province and also the mayors from Bataan province. I don't know how often they get together, but they all got together on board for lunch, a tour of the ship, a very warm and congenial situation, and well, we certainly got a lot out of it as they acted in their cities. And they reminded us of our problems here on our ships, because ships are like cities, and we got to get the water and the milk and all the things that you have to do. So 135. I will count the press. 135 out here today, and I would guess that your observations, as they've been in the past, and as I know, because I come over here a lot, the crew has got a tremendous morale. Just a super morale and a terrific captain, and a lot of good ideas, so that the sailors out here will have the memorable experiences working, as well as the social interchange that takes place. So they've done a good job in all their port visits with whatever they've done. And you've walked around and you heard the big bangs, you heard those 16-inch guns, the 5-inch guns, and the Seaway, the command and control, all the new radios, those boxes up in the top, that's electronic warfare, and there's 4 of those up there, the Sea-Whiz mount that you saw fire, the Harpoon missile system, the Tomahawk missile system, and other command and control. And so it turns out that this ship is a great big mix of very old and very new. The end result is, in my mind, it's more new than old. And so she's a new entry into our Navy. Our Navy is trying to work on a program whereby battleships can be the centerpiece of a larger group of ships called the battle group. Just as you know, and I certainly know, that we've sailed around with carrier battle groups that had a carrier in the middle. So looking at this as a new ship, surrounded by new ships, we've got a new entity, and that's called the Battleship Battle Group. Well, we've been at it for 10 months, working out the relevant tactics, working out the strengths, working out the limitations, and making sure we know the difference between the two, and trying to come up with a modus operandi or an operational posture that can do the job in various threat densities here or there. And there are lots of issues and lots of problems, and we have solved many, and there's many more to take place.
What is the reason for the reactivation of the battleship which were so active in World War II?
Okay, what is the reason for reactivating the battleships? Well, we're trying to rebuild and modernize the whole Navy. And we're trying to rebuild up its numbers. And Secretary Lehman has been talking for several years about 600 ships. More recently, because 600 ships it's a fact of life, by the end of the decade we will have 600 ships. And now we've given that more focus, and we're working on battle groups. And instead of having 13 or 14 battle groups, and limited therefore to going 13 places, we're trying to build battle groups around a battleship so that maybe we can go to 20 places at once if that were ever needed. And so it's part of the rebuilding of the Navy, looking for more force instruments, options between force instruments, looking for flexibility, looking for tactical options. Good question.
Sir, how's the
Battle group, northeast, south, or west, whichever way they told me to go, almost no matter what was going. Over here.
Sir, does your battleship capable of employing nuclear warheads?
Well, this ship, as I just said, has Tomahawk missiles, Tomahawk system. And it's our policy not to comment on whether that system is nuclear capable or not, and whether or not we have those weapons on board. And so I really can't answer that question.
Excuse me. Can you just recap for us?
Capacity, and one in which is generally not made a part of a battle group. So there's one of the strengths that's coming out of this new kind of battle group. It's a battle group that can, among other things, do naval gunfire support, or what we call NGFS.
So, Admiral, so thank you very much for today's, very nice arrangement for us. So, one question is now, Soviet Navy has so very big power in the Pacific side now. So they have, many aircraft, 2 aircraft carrier, and also they have, Kirov class, so big, like to, these ships. So how do you think now is even for the, Soviet Navy and U.S. Navy, the power is also even now, or more powerful the U.S. Navy now?
Well, that's a very tough question. It'll take us a week and a half to answer. But that's an emergency whistle, by the way. 5 blasts. There's a little guy up front, and we're trying to get him to tell us what he's going to do so that we can avoid him. But back to your question, I can almost go back to what I said earlier. Secretary of Navy, Secretary Lehman, and our whole Navy got moved 4, 5, 6 years ago to consider rebuilding. And this is one of the results of the decision to rebuild. And that was a process started because of the, as you just said, very clear recognition that the Soviet Navy is building very rapidly in this Pacific theater. Well, we think we're ahead of the power curve. We think we're going to always stay ahead of the power curve if we keep the process, which this ship reflects, going along. So yes, we're worried, but we're also very confident.
So this battle group is one of the answers from the U.S. Navy.
It's one of the answers. And we're going to have 2 battleship battle groups in the Pacific. The Missouri battle group, another year or 2. And so that's 2 big battle group additions to the Pacific. Now the Soviets are adding lots of ships. We're adding 2 full battle groups. So we understand the problem very, very clearly.
follow-up question, Admiral? According to my aircraft, plus 2 aircraft carriers. Now, my question is, could we cope your military might and our mosquito fleet cope with the Soviet might in case of a nuclear confrontation?
Well,
What? What about it? You can leave it just there. It's okay.
of love. That's the power of love. I can feel it.
When we shoot, they know right where the rounds hit, and they can also make spotting corrections. If we miss, they know exactly how far we have to turn or how much in range farther we have to shoot. We can land right on the target using these computers here. Even though they're real old, they're still very accurate. And that's about everything back here that we can tell you about right now. Oh, let's see, we also have some star shell capabilities with our computers. We can shoot shells that go over the target and light up and at nighttime and make the target just like it's in the daytime. So we start shooting our rounds, we can see exactly where they're falling, and we can make spotting corrections there also. And usually we'll use the 5-inch guns for shooting our star shells, and then we might use the 16-inch rounds for the actual destruction shots. And
Okay, thank you.
Lights.
leave it just the way it is right now. Let's see. If you'd like, but right now these ones here we have to leave them the way they're set up. There we go. Right now this here is my equipment room here, so normally I have to leave their stuff just how. Smile nice, Mikey.
And we kept it on because it's still useful, it still works. These are a lot more rugged than modern computers with their microchips and so forth. They can take a lot of shock and vibration, which you're going to have with the firing of the heavy guns. And I don't know if he told you also, we have another one of these plotting rooms forward and down one deck. We have 2 of them, so in case one of them is damaged or knocked out, we still have another one to control the guns. Notice also that we passed through an armored deck that was 6 inches thick to get down here. So we have that over the top of us. We've got the armored belts 12 inches thick. Now we're going to be exiting the way we came in.